Alright, we have another new chapter of My Hero Academia. This is 225. It's called Interview with a Vampire, which of course is an Anne Rice novel. I believe that's her name. Which I think is exactly as it says, a conversation between the journalist and the vampire, and hearing about the vampire's life and stuff. And then every single other vampire-related media will always make a joke about this. Tonari no Kyukatsuki-san, my neighborhood vampire, had an episode that I think was called that, where the occult club from school wants to go talk to the vampire. So I don't know if the guy who's in charge of the whole Meta Liberation Army thing, who's the weapon supplier, is literally a vampire. He kind of has a vampiric look to him. I guess there's the one teacher at UA that's like a vampire. Not that vampires are actually like a species, but they have vampiric quirks. Anyways, we're of course continuing our League of Villains versus Meta Liberation Army showdown, which began last chapter. Their plan, of course, is to bait Gigantomachia into coming and just fighting endlessly with 100,000 plus people. It's taking place in this sleepy little town of Deika. And last chapter I went on and on about how, isn't it cool that Boku no Hero Academia takes place in real places and real cities, and it's real Japan and blah blah blah. And then I looked it up, and this is not a real place. This is not a real part of Japan. This is something they made up for the series. So I was wrong about that. But that's okay. It's still an interesting setting. It's still neat in its realism as a potential place. It's far from the hustle and bustle, a tranquil place surrounded by nature. Little town nestled in the mountains with few routes leading in or out. The perfect sort of town for us to lie low in. Two mistakes. No one's going to treat me like a damsel in distress. So he doesn't think that they're going to come and rescue him. That, I guess, is sort of the villainous attitude, that it's every person for themselves. And he just wrote himself off as dead basically as soon as he was captured. If they unleash one of those bioengineered Nomu, your tranquil town is toast. I mean, doesn't that kind of contradict his first point? For him to suggest even that they're going to do that, wouldn't that be treating him like a damsel in distress? But I digress from this distress. You will not unleash any Nomu. For 3 reasons, which is one more than you have. Nomu became synonymous with attacks by the League of Villains. They had nothing more than a rumor since that day in Kamino. This despite the League's continued antics. So, he's correctly asserted that the Kamino incident involved destruction of the Nomu production and of most of the Nomus up until that point. This is a good observance by our Meta Liberation man. High-powered Nomu did show up in Kyushu. Yes, fought with Endeavor. Take note of the weaker white ones that the black ones spat out. Clearly modeled by mad science, their strength was nothing to write home about. Dabi said he was there to collect the black Nomu. Without the one powerful black one, they have no additional Nomu ready to deploy. Smart. That all adds up. These Nomu creatures were clearly provided as backup soldiers by the League's patron, All for One. The League is limited in how frequently we can use them at this time. Pretty good. I like this sort of analysis. I like that this is all stuff that we're aware of, especially since we've had this little behind the scenes with the League of Villains. But the fact that you could have ascertained, you could have actually worked out what was going on just from the evidence that was public outside of that, as he's done. It's kind of cool, that shows kind of a cohesiveness of storytelling, I think. But, of course, he has no idea what Gigantomachia is. He has no idea that there is a gigantic man that lives out in the woods and fights for 22 hours a day. Out the Nomu, the League of Villains is nothing more than a gang of hoodlums. And this is cool too, because this is the exact sort of thing that they were feeling anxious about, that they were starting to doubt themselves especially Spinner, thinking, wait a minute, wasn't I supposed to be part of some gigantic world-changing force? Instead, it just kind of feels like we're a bunch of punks hanging out in an abandoned house. um, so yeah, here we get, again, just more fantastic backgrounds full of quirks. Is this a 2-page spread? No, not really. Look at all the people doing stuff. There's a guy just like casually throwing a car here. Somebody else doing big mouth blast. I'm interested in this bottom right panel. This woman making some sort of electro cross type thing in her palm. It's very neat. This other guy's got big chain chomp looking hands. I'm into it. There was like a kid during the supplemental classes arc. Remember when they had to like appease all the children that had a power kind of like that? Maybe it's his kid. I don't know. Nah, probably not, because they take place in different places. But whatever. Okay. So yes, the League seems quite besieged. Each one of these guys is a handful. That's right. All the heroes in this city are coming out to fight. Our dormant liberation warriors have spent their days training, forging their bodies and minds, all to better live as the people they really are. So that's interesting too. So here we see people that really don't look like they're combat ready. Like in this panel here in the bottom right, there's what just seems to be like a middle-aged woman. You know, her hair's up in a bun and she's wearing an apron, and you wouldn't think of her as a combatant. You wouldn't think of her as someone strong. Even, you know, in the real world, but then also in the greater world of Boku no Hero Academia. And you realize that a lot of people actually probably have pretty scary quirks that could make them into very formidable fighters. But because of laws governing the time and place that you can use quirks, they've never trained them for combat. They've never actually pushed in this direction. So this is something that is radically inherently different about areas under the control of the Meta Liberation Army, where of course they're going to say, yeah, go nuts, like please do push them to their full extent and see what you're capable of, and be practiced in using them. This is kind of their goal, is to make a society where all around the world people are free to live like this. And it's kind of interesting that so far they're showing it as quite a positive. That look, because they were training, because they took this seriously, now these certifiable villains, these card-carrying members of the League of Villains, one of the worst terrorist organizations the world has seen, are getting taken hit for hit, toe for toe. For toe. That's not a thing people say. They're going toe-to-toe with, I guess is what I'm saying, these terrorists, despite just being some guy, despite just being, you know, an office worker. It's interesting. It's showing it as a pretty positive thing right here. So I wonder, like, I'm assuming eventually our heroes are going to fight against the Meta Liberation Army. I don't think there's going to be an arc where Deku is radicalized and decides that, hey, yeah, everyone should be free to use their quirks however and whenever they want. Yeah. So irritating to have you people just waltz on in with no great cause or ideology and start hogging the headlines. Keen on being interviewed? I love it. Because she's really calling out Toga here, as she was in the end of the last chapter. What would make a high schooler fall into this madness, to fall into this depraved violence? And she's really doubling down on this and saying, like, because I don't know the answer. You guys just have been showing up and doing terrorism and attacking people, and there's nothing behind it. And we know what's behind it. It's Shigaraki Tomura's insane disgust and nihilistic, defeatist anger at the entire world, right? But compared to them, who of course actually have a goal and actually want to see society different instead of just gone, this isn't good enough. This isn't a good excuse to be doing what you're doing. And it's not a good reason for them to be so prominent. Haven't backed down from a good story since my first year in the biz. I will strip you bare. I couldn't care less about the league, but you're a different case. A girl gone mad. Story would make for an amazing article. My blood pumped like this since the days I was back on the beat. I always like when a character in a shonen series like this exists. She's like simultaneously like kind of talking about it as if it was like a pun, you know, that you can draw some like analogy between like making a story about her and just like beating her up or whatever. And this is the way that all shonen people talk, is that they just keep making jokes and puns and stuff about their characterization. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe she actually just does want to write an article about Toga-chan, right? But like maybe, I don't know. Anyways, this first panel is interesting. These characters seem quite defined. So this is maybe like her little squad. We're probably not going to see the full extent of them until quite a while later. And this one guy I think might be gone after this page because he just took a knife to the neck. But what's going on here? Is she like patting the head of this person? Is she reaching around behind her to pat the head? Is that what's going on? So I'm very interested in that. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm very interested. Anyways, I also like this kind of contrast that she keeps talking about how Toga is young, that she's just kind of going mad, that she's the high schooler, whatever. And then here it really emphasizes like the bags under her eyes. And the fact that her eyes are red, I think, is kind of that like red-eye journalism sort of thing. Is that a thing? You know, like the idea that you're staying up all night to be able to get the story immediately. That she's weary and she's been through a lot, and the contrast between these characters. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, but no, here comes the knife. She hasn't been cut. Where'd she? Oh, going in. All right. All this characterization could come to the end right here. I don't know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect because this is all so structured so differently than your typical shonen arc that it's like, well, I don't know, maybe they'll just take down one of the main antagonists right now, or not. Toga, of course, buffeted back by a stream of quirk support. As curious as on the job, back off. I hesitate at all when it comes to cold blood murder. How? Why not? I need to know. Life have you led? Oh, see, this is it. The whole city, though. This ramen shop she dives into. It's not safe. It's not safe. Show no mercy. Okay, meta ability landmine. She turns things into bombs with just a touch. I thought maybe it was but whatever. Explosions don't pack much power, but she goes for quantity over quality. So yeah, it's kind of like a analogy, I guess, to trying to make a bunch of stories blow up or whatever. Here we see the noodle maker guys. I thought it was a ramen shop, but it's just a noodle shop. Attacking. This kind of idea of like a city where everyone is their enemy is pretty cool. That people doing just kind of normal service industry stuff suddenly jumping out and doing themed attacks. It's fun. It's really fun. It has a really cool video gamey sort of feel, I think. Oh, and Toga really quickly deploying all of her blood-sucking needles. On the go, suck mask. Suck blood and using meta ability transform. Fascinating. Multiple donors, it's hard to tell who to watch out for. So maybe you move your body, you just being another mad slasher doesn't explain these highly tuned survival skills. How did you turn out this way? I need the details. This is kind of fun too, because Toga has been an extremely popular character. Really disproportionate to the amount of development and screen time she's had. So this almost seems to reflect like the collective will of the readers. I need details. I need to understand this character more. Oh, the blood exploded. Oh, ew, the blood exploded, like, after she was infusing it into herself? Okay. Where's one Balkan being turned into bombs? So better powers to put you and your people on the ropes. Send some background information. So yeah, you can see this girl grinning, totally fine with the fact that her blood has been turned into bombs. But sure. Daughter of the Toga family. On August 7th, currently 17, ran away from home just after middle school graduation. It's that day when the media rushed over to your parents looking for answers. You interviewed your classmates. Everyone said the same thing. He's a cheerful, reasonable, well-mannered girl, so they all wondered why. Why you did what you did. Oh, interesting, interesting. And of course that makes sense. That's what they would have done. They would have contacted the parents, contacted the friends, all that stuff. It's kind of neat, thinking about this media that exists in this world that we don't get to see, but that follows kind of the same logic as the way that we create media in our world. I appreciate things like that. It's similar to when you see like action figures and stuff for the superheroes in the world. It's like, of course that would exist. What's going on here with Axeman, by the way? Is he levitating an axe behind him? Does he actually have, like, his actual quirk is just like telekinesis, but he just chooses to use axes all the time? Oh man, I don't know. I can't praise this enough. This is just the depth of. Why did you abandon any hope of a normal life? Believe me, I know you must have suffered. Your version, if you don't mind. The result goes, get out there and find the real stories. When you do, look them in the eyes, because if an article is going to sway public opinion, it's got to have heart. Your story, your heart is going to shake things up, and it will be all for the Meta Liberation Army's sake. Why don't you just go home to Madness Tommy? So, I think she has an agenda here. We can see it kind of break down. And it's kind of cool, the way that we're seeing this really haunting shot of Toga's backstory. She's hanging out with some friends. She's got this smiling mask on. And then it seems like she sees Deku. This is definitely Deku, right? Probably pre-quirk Deku getting bullied. Probably by Kachan. And her mask starts to crack. So that's not the full story. We're not, like, really sure why. But simultaneously, we're hearing Kizuki's story. She's a reporter. She's trying to get the story of the Meta Liberation Army out there. She's the one, I think, responsible for the publishing of the book, I'm pretty sure. And here are... Oh, so the vampire in the... Of course, the vampire in the title is Toga. Toga is the vampire being interviewed. Of course. Okay, that makes me feel a little stupid. Because I was like, is this our vampire? And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I know what the vampire is. So it's like, I think what she hopes the answer is that Toga had felt repressed and alienated and isolated by society as it stands. And that the way she's acting out, using her quirk liberally, fighting people, like this kind of total wildness that emerges from her, she's going to be like, that's in everybody. Like, we need to avoid this happening by relaxing the laws and regulations around quirks. That's my bet. That's how she's going to try to spin this one. Normal life, huh? What's that? Liberation Army are trying to make the world a wonderful place, so I like you. For me, this is my normal. Ooh, and that shot of the bloody X-Acto knife next to the pleated skirt. You kidding me with this? Like, isn't that a little... I don't know, man. Sometimes a series like this puts... They go in the direction of the real world so much that Like, this whole page has nothing necessarily supernatural on it. You know? There's nothing inherently about superheroes and quirks and stuff in that image. And then suddenly in isolation you're like, dang, that's actually an incredibly disturbing image. So this is cool. I'm quite interested in this characterization. I'm quite interested in where this is going. It feels like, again, they're dipping their toes into real world issues more than normal, more than just superheroes fighting each other. And I'm curious. I'm curious to see what they're going to try to say about maybe the greater human condition. All right, and I'm curious, and my curiosity can be sated because there's another chapter that we can read right now. So I will see you again tomorrow for chapter 226.